I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down? He should calm down.
So he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack. Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber!
Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go! I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You're not shit. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got dropped, man. Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG, I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? It's a little morning show because I missed all of you guys' questions and topics that I asked for in the community post on our YouTube page. So I thought I'd do a little makeup morning show for you guys. Don't worry, we're still most likely doing a 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time regular show with Rob and Gary, breaking down all the fights coming up this weekend, any of the news. So don't worry, we're going to get to all of that later today as well. If you want any, Shields, Habazin, or Hart, Joe Smith breakdown, or any of the news about Usyk, Chisora, Joshua, all that stuff, that will be at 2 p.m. most likely today. Depends really what Rob's schedule is. If he's more available tomorrow, then we might push it back for tomorrow. Just letting everyone know. But right now, we're going to answer all of you guys' questions and topics, both on our community posts, on our YouTube page, and in the live chat right now on YouTube. So drop a question, topic, whatever it may be that you want me to discuss, and I'll be discussing it. And we will be live for as long as there are questions and topics from you guys. Shout out to One Hitter, Dwayne, and obviously Rob in the chat. Hope everyone's having a fantastic morning, evening, night, wherever you are. And I hope you guys are ready to talk some boxing. Let's get to the questions and topics off the bat. Which one should I go to first? I like this one. Let's go to 92 Aku and his question. I think it's a good one to start off with because there are some. I'm going to get to every question and topic here that you guys took the time out of your day to write to us, even though some of them are clearly bait. Clearly bait. But I'll get to all of them. Let's get to a little bit more of a pure boxing question first. 92 Aku in the community post saying, is Charlo the real deal at 154? Because I had him losing before the TKO. What are your guys' thoughts on the Brian Kenny Spence interview? Too harsh, disrespectful? I say yes and no. Should Spence drop strap season and get into seatbelt season? Oh my God, 92, that's bad. So bad. First question you have is Charlo the real deal at 154? I think the question is obviously yes. Now, it depends maybe what your definition of the real deal is, because I think clearly he's an elite champion, right? Like, I think he's a perennial top 3 to 5 guy in the division, and I think for the next foreseeable future, he is that. I don't see him, even if he loses to guys like Williams or Hurd or let's say Harrison and Trilogy, that still means he's a top 5 player in the division, and I still think that's a real elite world-class fighter. Now you said you had him losing before the TKO. I agree. I had him losing before the TKO, but that's, I can say that's fine because it isn't fine. Like, you should correct some of those issues that he had, but it was clear that winning rounds wasn't a key strategy for him. It just wasn't. And similar to like Canelo Kova, I think that's a good example to bring up because I think it had a similar dynamic and just pure aesthetics in a way, even though Harrison was the one moving forward and throwing with the jab and at volume instead of going backwards like Kovalev. They have very similar dynamics. And clearly Canelo didn't care about winning rounds. He knew he's got to land a few powerful shots here and there, wear him down, go with the body here and there, and I'm going to get him out in the later rounds. I think Charlo had that game plan for Harrison, to be honest. But is your question more of, is he the best guy in the division? Is that your definition of the real deal? If that's what it is, then it's yet to be determined. I mean, we are in a position where 154 is kind of stacked right now with talent and really good fighters. And even like lower level fights against guys like Patrick Teixeira or Carlos Adames, like that would be really fun competitive fights for Charlo. So I think it is more of a question yet to be determined is he the next best guy in the division? You can't say yes to that yet. There's too many guys here. J-Rock, Hurd, even like Teixeira to a degree. I think, he had a great performance against Adames. How would Charlo perform against him? I think he would win, but let's not act like it's a walk in the park. It isn't. I think to act like that, like there's this huge disparity of talent within the top 10 at 154 is just ignorant. And, I've I think been coming around to that more and more as time goes on about, the disparity between talent here is very small in a lot of these divisions. We act like these guys are so much better than these other opponents, these other guys within their division, and they just aren't at times. Fury, Crawford are, I think, prime examples that clearly they're talented world-level guys, but let's not act like the disparity between them and the top 15 guy is that much. It may not be, so to speak. Rabitsky, hey, Matt. I'll get to all of you guys' Rob. Rob, I hate you so much right now. Rabitsky, I'll get to all the Crawford talk that you guys are having in the chat. I see a lot of that happening in the chat. I'll get to that in a second. Rob, that's nasty. Why is this title clickbait, you fucking asshole? Trying to trigger me. My thought on the Brian Kenny Spence interview, I thought a lot of people got too upset over that either way, whether it was a great interview or it was an awful interview. It was a Brian Kenny interview. If you've seen Brian Kenny enough, that's what he does. I don't get the harsh or disrespectful vibe at all. I don't get that. I thought it was a fine interview. Just fine. It wasn't the best interview. It wasn't the bad interview. It was just fine. It's a Brian Kenny interview where he asks a lot of the same questions over and over again, and that kind of repetitive, so to speak. Should Spence drop straps season and get into seatbelt season? That's fucking nasty. 92. Let's get to some of the topics in the live chat that you guys have been having. Dwayne saying, I want to get to the Crawford stuff because I think multiple people here are talking about Crawford in the chat. Dwayne saying, who should promote Crawford? Who could promote Crawford better? And then I believe Hitter said, no matter what promoter Bud has, he'll never open up and be himself on interviews. Look at the Joe Rogan show. And Rabisa saying, Matt, Bud Crawford is his own worst enemy, shaking my head. Buddy Ace is saying there's nothing wrong with Crawford at Top Rank. I'll say this. I think there's a decent argument for the idea that no matter where Crawford goes, this issue of promoting him persists. I think that is a very decent argument to have. Just look at, like Hitter said, he went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and that's one of the biggest online outlets you can kind of go on, to be honest. It's the biggest podcast in the world. It just is. I have my issues with Joe Rogan. I think some of you longtime listeners know, but clearly, this issue of Terrence Crawford, I think, is a very self-made issue to a degree. I will say this, though. I think certain entities would push Crawford and prioritize him a little more evidently in terms of just overall promotional budget. I think PBC would promote him better. I think Matchroom would promote him better. Hell, I think Golden Boy, with kind of the lack of stuff they have, would maybe even do a better job, and that's crazy to say because Golden Boy is perhaps the worst promoter in the game. But it does seem like Top Rank has given up on promoting Crawford to be a superstar. And not that you can force that, but as a promoter, and that's clearly your best talented fighter in the money division in boxing, you have to try and not stop trying. And they stopped trying, clearly. And it's weird because I don't think they never stopped trying with guys like Timothy Bradley, but they, in my opinion, stopped trying with Terrence Crawford. Is that due to maybe behind the scenes one guy being more of a company man? I don't know. But back to the point I made at the beginning of this conversation is that even if he goes to PBC and Matchroom and they might prioritize him better than Top Rank does that all of a sudden, boom, fix the issue? No, of course not. It makes fixing the issue better, right, guys? Like, let's be honest. Like, I think, Rob, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have said Golden Boy. I apologize. But I think we have to admit that at least Matchroom with the DAZN apparatus right now and the way they are isolated in terms of content with boxing, they were prioritized Terrence Crawford to a significant degree. Look at the way they've rolled out the red carpet treatment for guys like Mikey Garcia. Terrence Crawford is light years more of a star than Mikey Garcia. Sorry. And with Met PBC, I think they would promote him heavily. I think the welterweight division is their cash cow, so to speak, the cumulative division. So rising tide raises all ships. I think he would be highly well served being with PBC and to some degree. But that's only a marginal fix. It makes him wanting to open up a little bit easier because then he has the network backing, so to speak, to be bigger. I don't think that's really there at ESPN. Like if Terrence Crawford all of a sudden woke up today, guys, and said, I'm going to be the best self-promoter in boxing. And let's not theorize what that would look like. Just imagine he is the perfect self-promoter, whatever that looks like for Terrence Crawford. Do we think ESPN all of a sudden flips the switch on pushing him? Do you think Top Rank all of a sudden flips the switch on promoting him? I don't know. I'm highly doubtful of that. So it's one of those where it's a weird conversation because I think at the end of the day, no matter where he goes, this issue doesn't get fixed. But we would be ignorant to say that all these promoters and these networks push fighters the same way. That's just ridiculous. Let's be honest. Let me see. What else do we have here? Let's go back to Dwayne saying, who's more likely to beat Mike Garcia, Regis Prograis, or Josh Taylor? I like both matchups. I think both guys would beat Mike Garcia, to be honest. I think both guys would beat him relatively convincingly, to be honest. Mikey's been inconsistent. Inconsistent in a variety of ways, both in activity, performances, weight classes. He's been one of the most inconsistent fighters of the last 2 years. So I'm picking consistent guys like Josh Taylor and Regis Prograis. Just am. Like, it's not even a difficult question. And plus, I think they do have styles to beat Mikey Garcia, to be honest. What else do we have here? If I miss anything, guys, feel free to drop it in again. Don't worry about it. What else do we have? Scott Brown saying, no way Spence gets Pac. Crawford is Spence's money fight. Maybe. It's possible. What else do we have here? Let's move on. And guys, I usually don't like this, but for me, just from my eyesight, if you put your questions in all caps, totally easier for me to see, by the way, in the live chat. I won't think that you're yelling at me, but it will be easier for me to see, just to be honest. Moving on, Mick in the community post said, Kuzma sparring video fake or real? We discussed this yesterday on yesterday's show, and Gary's of the mindset that it's fake. I'm, leaning halfway here. I don't know. I think it's hard to tell because we don't know Kuzman's personality that well. Like we don't know if he's the type of guy to try to be a prankster to a degree. But no matter what, it's either corny if it's fake or unsportsmanlike if it's real. No matter which way you sort of put it, it's not a fun thing that Kuzma did there. Ryan in the chat saying no shot in hell. Progress beats Mikey Garcia. Maybe. I mean, it's possible. Lipinets gave him some work. So I think Mikey at 140 is far more susceptible to taking L's than he was at 135. Just being honest. If he is at 135, Mike Garcia could be the best guy in that division and still be on pound for pound list. But he went up to 140, looked suspect against Sergey Lipinets, and then went up to 147 and lost in significant dominant fashion against Errol Spence. He's been out for a year. Yeah, I'm not going to pick him in any significant fight right now. I got to see him in a tune-up to a degree, or any sort of fight. Like Jesse Vargas is a really good fight to figure out where he is at in terms of, gas in the tank in his career, to be honest. I said I will answer all of you guys' questions and topics on the community post, and some of these are bait, guys, like I said, and this is bait. Plaster God BMF saying, why does Ness suck? Ness is a very good orator. So that means like he's very good at speaking. Ness is a very good radio host. Does he research anything when it comes to boxing? No. Does he spend any amount of time like reading articles or like, again, research on any sort of topic? No. That's probably why. I mean, when people get upset at him being a casual, it's because he doesn't do research. But he's a good radio host, so it evens out to a degree, and that's why he has so many followers. That's why, I mean, if you want like other reasons Ness sucks, I mean, ripping off his independent contractors time and time again is probably another thing, but that's beside the point. Yogi DeBear saying, do you like prospects fighting each other? May start a rivalry or wait to make it a big fight. I'm always in favor of prospects fighting each other. I think there's no downside to that, honestly. Like, I think the classic example is George Groves, James DeGale. They fought each other very early in their careers, and James DeGale became a world champion before George Groves did. And he took the L. So these things, losses early in a career, if you're talented enough, if you're skilled enough, can easily get reversed. Easily. So I'm always in favor of prospects fighting each other. Like, we've been talking about like Virgil Ortiz and Rashidi Ellis fighting each other because there's really nothing that Golden Boy could make at 147 for either guy, so match them up with each other. Make a lot of sense. Rubi's saying that's old news. I agree. That is old news. That guy's not even in this space anymore. He's too busy being a bigot in Florida. Heath Farley in the community post saying, I'd like to hear everyone's thoughts on why they love boxing. Maybe some discussion on what separates casuals from hardcores and some philosophical arguments on where that line is drawn. Not a radio guy, not sure if that would bore everyone else to tears, but that's my 2 cents. Heath, you know me, man. I love talking philosophical nonsense for hours, so we can do this, no problem. Why do I love boxing? That's a weird question, because I think everyone probably has their own unique reasons as to why they love boxing. Man, why do I love boxing? I mean, first off, it's one of the most enjoyable sports to watch, in my opinion. Like, I find it, like, high-level boxing, like, Canelo Triple G, 1 and 2, right? Like, I will probably die on the hill that there's no ball and stick sports that can equal that excitement. There's nothing that I've witnessed. Same with like MMA, like just combat sports, period. Like that thrill of the fight, like especially when you're live. If you've never been to a live event, people, and I would assume, if there's a lot of people listening to the show, there's some people that just haven't been to a live boxing event. Go to a live boxing event. I'm telling you, even if it's your regional podunk amateur event, go to a live event. You have to go. Rob saying, Matt, you hate boxing. Stop. That tension, that atmosphere. I mean, it's truly indescribable. It's euphoric. It really is. And plus, the history of boxing, the ugly side of the sport at times as well. I think that all adds a certain character and value, culturally speaking, to the sport that other sports maybe don't have, or it's not as much of a forefront of the conversation. And then plus, like, if you were anyone that came up, this might sound weird because it was probably referred to as the dark ages for a long time by media, but the early to mid 2000s had so many great fights, people. Like Barrera, Morales, Pacquiao, those three in combination alone were insane. Yeah, Foogatti, Mickey Ward. You had so many transcendental fights when I was coming up. Castillo and Corrales, for example. Like, that's probably my go-to. If I have to pick one fight that turned me into a hardcore, it's that fight. And I think as someone that was watching the sport from a very outside perspective as a young kid, because there wasn't really anyone in my household that watched boxing religiously. Like, I had to find this on my own. And when I did, it became mine, if that makes any sense. It wasn't anyone in my family's thing that was passed down to me. It was mine. And I think that made me love it even more. It was something that I can go to and teach other people about because no one really followed it to the degree that I did. Yo, give us some good questions in the chat saying your top 3 greatest fights. Greatest fight of all time, in my opinion. Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran won. Was that the Brawl in Montreal? I think that's the tagline for it. I might be wrong about that. But that fight to me is... Yo, you guys are with the jokes this morning. I love it. That fight's one of my favorites of all time. Like I said, Corrales, Castillo. It's up there for me. This is a recent one, obviously, but it's one that I was at, so maybe that's why I have such a personal affinity to. It's Canelo Triple G 1. Like, that fight was insane. It was the craziest sporting atmosphere I've ever been to. A close second would probably be Gonzalez Cuadras at the Forum. Just for me, personal experience being at, that was insane to be at. And Santiago was at that one, so is JP from Long Beach. Certain people that listen to the show that participate in the show, they will attest that thing was insane. Ryan, no, I don't, not anymore. Used to, man, used to. Jay Willett saying Okole asking, you sick bastard. Well, I think there was another good question. What fight would you show a person that's never watched boxing? Probably one of the 3 that I mentioned. Leonard, Duran, one. Hagler Hearns is another one that obviously people will mention as the war. It's a great little 4-rounder. Was it a 5-rounder or 4-rounder? That's an easy, contained fight to show someone that's never watched boxing before. The trick that I've found is not really to show them fights per se. Show them highlight reels. Like, for example, my kid, the first person I made him watch I made him, but I was like, hey, let's watch some, he calls it Pow Pow. Let's watch some Pow Pow. Let's watch some boxing. And it was Prince Nassim Hamed. I mean, you watch a highlight reel of him with some Cypress Hill playing in the background. Tell me you're not going to fall in love with Prince Nassim in boxing, I found that to be really beneficial and efficient as well, showing highlight reels of certain fighters that are really exciting. Roy Jones Jr., for example. You show someone a highlight reel Roy Jones Jr., how are they not going to become a fan of boxing? Like, come on. Ward, Gotti 1, Robieski. That's a good one. A lot of people saying Hagler, Hearns. Recent one, but I do like this mention because, I think some recent fights are some transcendental moments that obviously with time and retrospect we will determine that are transcendental. But Francisco Vargas, Takeshi Miura, that was a good one. That whole run of Vargas, Miura, and Salido on HBO, even like Roman Martinez and others, like they had so many great fights that people I think kind of forget nowadays, surprisingly. Eternal Hiatus saying, what do you prefer, MMA or boxing, and why? If I'm going just for like a quick, cheap thrill, like MMA, even like low-end undercard stuff is really exciting at times. And I think like it's better matched than boxing. But high-level boxing, nothing beats it. Nothing beats that. Ryan in the chat, Matt, do you bet fights? No. A, I don't have enough money to bet fights. And 2, I've seen enough bad bets. Island saying I became a fan by watching Floyd. I mean, Floyd, Arturo Gatti, I want to say was the first pay-per-view I remember like my household buying. Because we didn't buy really pay-per-views often. I think that was one we bought. And the next one, like my house bought. Because I usually went to other people's houses or found them online in the early days of online torrent sites. But I think the next one was like Mayweather Hatton, I want to say, was the next one we actually bought. And plus, like when I was really young, we had the black box in the 90s, so we didn't have to do that. Rob, so many jokes in the chat, guys. What are the good questions in the chat? All the ones on the community post, they're there. I'm not gonna miss them. Might miss some of you guys in the chat. Let me see. Any good ones? Metal Box, I like this question. I like bigger questions like this. And I'll get back to Heath's question in a second. He had a second part to it about separating hardcore and casuals. Why have U.S. fight fans stopped attending fights? Big nights don't look to be anywhere near full. I might be wrong. Obviously, like certain guys are always going to pack a house. Canelo, for example. But even like a Canelo, Kovalev being 10,000, like that's a packed house in Vegas. It just is. I'm sorry. Vegas is just different. But I will say this. Ticket prices are insane. The economic recession of 2008, I think the effects of it are still really evident in this country. And I just think that most people, like me, for example, if they're the type that will buy a ticket to a boxing event, they've bought tickets to boxing events before. They can watch it on DAZN or ESPN or Fox now for a relatively cheap price than before, right? Except for the PBC pay-per-view or the occasional ESPN pay-per-view. Everything now is far cheaper than it used to be. So why, from a logical perspective, if you're a consumer, why would you then add on an expense for you personally when overall you can make the argument that expenses for boxing have gone down from a TV, air quotes, consuming perspective? I think that's an aspect to it as well. Same degree as like illegal streaming. Why are there so many people illegally streaming? Because it's free. So logically speaking, of course, people are going to try to get a free viewing way to a fight. Same way they're going to try to get the cheapest way to watch a fight. I think there's some logic behind that if I'm going to make an honest assessment. And plus, again, economics of the United States right now, not the greatest. So I think that probably plays a factor into it. Island saying that just ticket prices being super expensive and marketing is bad. Marketing is bad. Ticket prices are extremely high for big fights. I think those are massive factors. I mean, I remember when I bought my ticket for Ward Kovalev 1. That thing was insanely priced. That was Ward Kovalev. Like that's not a Mayweather fight. That's not a Pacquiao fight. That's not an Errol Spence fight nowadays. I don't know what you're saying here, Jay. Willits, Matt, reckon you could do it on a cold Tuesday night in Stoke? What does that mean? I don't understand what that means. What else? Let's go back to Heath's question, though. Difference between hardcores and casuals. What's the line that separates them? I think the line that separates them is a very blurred line nowadays, to be honest, especially from my perspective. Plus, I think there's a spectrum to it, to use the catchphrase of the 21st century. There's a spectrum to these things, and there's a spectrum to being a hardcore fan. You have the fans like Leonard Sterling, for example, who's in our chat all the time, who is hyper focused on every minute detail of boxing, news, rumors, everything, and plus has a almost encyclopedic knowledge of the last 20, 30 years of boxing. You have guys like Santiago, who's not called in yet. Santiago, I'm upset, Santiago. You got to fix that. Call in. Who has like an encyclopedic knowledge of boxing history. That's a level of hardcore that I'm not. I am perfectly comfortable saying I'm not that level of hardcore in terms of fandom per se, if that's even how we want to describe this thing. And plus, I think that we get. It's interesting because I might be wrong about this, guys. Maybe in the chat you might disagree with me, but in my opinion, fandom, while often it comes with the knowledge of the source material or whatever it may be, there's a level of how much you love it. Are you a hardcore fan? That means you just love the product, you love the source material, the IP, whatever it is that we're talking about in any sort of context, sports, TV shows, comic books, whatever it may be, right? If you're a fan, if you're part of the fandom of something, you just love it. So I think if you love boxing and you just love it all the time, not all the time, but you just love boxing and you watch as much as you can, you're a hardcore fan. Now, the degrees of knowledge you have as a hardcore fan is where we might get into disagreements or we might get into splitting hairs here. But if you just love boxing, you're a hardcore fan, in my opinion. Because if you love boxing, most of the time you watch a lot of boxing. You may not watch as much as some others. You may not go back and watch as much old boxing as others. You may not pay attention to all the news as others. But if you love boxing, you more than likely watch quite a bit, right? Casuals often get drug along. If we're talking about just casual fans, they get drug along because they know a few guys. That's how usually I differentiate it. They know maybe a Wilder or AJ or Fury or one of them and knows the others as certain catchphrases. They might know vaguely of Spence, maybe, but Pacquiao they know for sure. Mayweather they hear about all the time. McGregor, they talk about, MMA fights, is this fight, is that MMA champion going to fight Tyson Fury, the Brit? That type of casual fan. That's usually where I draw the line. And everything above that, you're a hardcore. We're not going to... I've stopped really having that... or stopped using you're a casual, you're a hardcore. Because, let's be honest, if you're in this space, if you're participating on boxing Twitter, on my live chat, you're more than likely watching a lot of boxing. More than a casual fan. So that's where I separate it. I don't think... I know that there's I know some people have different definitions of casual and hardcore, but that's how I separate the two. What else do we have here? Santiago saying Blog Talk is not working that well. So, guys, if you want to call in, Blog Talk does not seem to be working. So call in on Skype if you want. Mixed Combat Radio. Let's see what other questions and topics we have in the question and topics post. A lot of people were concerned about Rob. That's about what else we have here, to be honest. Is people concerned about where Rob is at. Rob is fine, guys. He's okay. If he's home today, then we will be doing a show at 2 p.m. If he's not home, then it happens, guys. People are busy. I think that this would be a good time to maybe reframe what I think some of our listeners think about this show. None of us make any sort of living off of this. And to be honest, economically speaking, we've made less money as the show has gone on. Just being honest here. So this show literally only pays for itself. It literally only pays for Blog Talk, Speaker, SoundCloud, Premium or Pro, certain software that I need. That's what it pays for. StreamYard, Lightstream, it pays for those things. And that's it. It self-pays for itself. The show, in terms of Patreon revenue, YouTube ad revenue, podcast ad revenue, that's all it pays for. So I don't collect any sort of check from it. That's why I've been working a lot more on the side now, and I've been actually trying to get a 9-to-5 lately, guys. Rob is busy. Plus, we had the holidays in the last few weeks, guys. I think people forget that. Gary, I think he's retired now because he made a killing on the stock market back in the day. Good for him. But people have lives. People have other jobs. And plus, this show doesn't make money. So if one of us, Foogatti included, if we all can't be on the show, if we can't do a show, please understand, this isn't a show that makes any of us money. We're not a channel that has 100,000 subscribers that makes 6 figures a year. We're not like those channels. We can't pay for ourselves. We can't pay for the bills, for groceries with this show. So, again, please understand that if, again, I can't do a show, if Gary can't do a show, if Rob can't do a show, if Fu can't do a show, it's not because we don't want to. It's because, unfortunately, this is not our day job. And to be honest, this will probably be even reduced more so going on to 2020. I'm more than likely getting a marketing job in the next, few months, let's say, hopefully. So expect this show to change in certain ways because it has to in terms of the economics of it. Now, if you want to support us and if you want that to change, of course, patreon.com/Mixed Comment Radio. $1 a month is all we're asking for. All that helps. It does. And the more we make, the more this can be a full-time thing where, Rob, Fu, Gary, we can all do this more consistently. Because right now we can't. It's unfortunate, I know, but it is what it is. Now let's get to some of you guys' questions and topics. I'm going to go for about 15 more minutes, tops, guys, and then I'm going to have to, unfortunately, stop the show. But I will get into all of you guys' questions and topics on the live chat. Matthew D'Souza saying, just curious, how many viewers does a YouTuber need to make a decent living? If it's just one person, right? We have on average 30,000 to 50,000 views per month. We make on average $60 to $100 a month from YouTube ad revenue. So you would need to at least times that by 10, honestly speaking, and that's just like bottom level. Yeah, that's not to a decent living, right? That's still well below living wage. You're talking about more like 20 times that level. So if we had close to, 100,000 views a month, I think that we could make that work. To be honest, there'd be a way to do that. Plus, if we had 100,000 views a month, that means podcast views are looking pretty good too. Ad revenue looking good there. Also, podcast Patreon revenue might be up. So probably around that. So no, hold on. We need close to like 500,000 views per month and more like 10,000 views per show. If we hit that, that'd be fantastic. And we're well below that. And if you look at like the big YouTubers, right, Matthew? Some of them do like 1 million views on a video. Like time and time again, they do like 500,000 views on a video. Like good examples like people that I like, right? People I like in this space. Not necessarily combat sports, but YouTube space, like Angry Joe Show. Love the work those guys do. Look at the views they get per video, per pop, right? And then the cumulative views they get on their back end content, right? Also, like guys like Jeremy Johns, he's doing like 1 million views a video at least. Some of the kid YouTube channels my kid watches, they get like 5 million views a pop. Like we're just talking about stratospheres of difference here to make a living, so to speak. So it's a lot. Like YouTubers, there's a reason you see a lot of them like doing everything they can, let's say, to get views. Steven saying, Matt, hopefully you guys can get some sponsorship down the line to fund this, seeing growth in the channel over the last couple of years and like the flow of this show. Thank you, Steven. One, sponsorship is very hard to get. Two, sponsorships for sponsorships to a significant degree in terms of money amount. It's going to take us to hit a certain threshold. Like we had 30,000 subscribers. This may be a different conversation. Car spotter. So what you need to do is shorter videos with more appealing headlines and he doesn't finish his statement. Well, that's why we do a lot of the short videos and the clips. That's why we do that. This model that we have is not one that is unique to us, obviously. Like I have taken it from other shows like the Majority Report with Sam Cedar. I've kind of taken his format, to be honest. Respect to him, homage to the great Sam Cedar. But what we do is sort of a daily show, or try to do a daily show, and then we split the show in clips with sensationalized headlines because that's the name of the game. But again, it's not automatic. We don't automatically get views for those things. That's not how it happens. Guys, sharing and liking videos is fantastic. That's huge for the algorithm. If you guys hit the like button and Robbie's been on fire in the live chat today. If you hit the like button and share the video, and we had let's say 50% of you guys do that, that tells the algorithm that you guys like the content, and that will put it into other people's feeds. So if we had more likes, that'd be fantastic. If we had 10% of our viewers like it and share the show, that'd be fantastic. And Rob saying sponsors suck. They do, and they're very hard to get, if we're being honest. Jake Kidder saying cheers to the future with the super chat. Thank you. Thank you, Jay Kidder. What else do we have? Jay Kidder saying Matt, JoJo versus Farmer. Oh, man, the more I think about the fight, the more I'm leaning Joseph Diaz. If you look at that, if I go back and watch the Gary Russell fight, Gary Russell's a far better fighter than Tevin Farmer. Joseph Diaz should win this fight, in my opinion. But, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that fight looks and who sort of gets the better of it. Yogi saying, how far can MVP go in the UFC? Michael Venom Page is who he's talking about. Not that far at all. Scott Brown saying MVP would do even worse than Askren in the UFC, in my opinion. I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. 100%. I don't know what that is, Yogi. What else do we have? Anything else? Or put the NFL beyond an $80 pay-per-view paywall, and even football would be a niche sport in about 10 years. Yeah, it would take some time, but it would. Absolutely. Matthew D'Souza saying, Matt, my upset of 2020 is Vargas beating Garcia. First off, that's not happening. What's yours? Oof. Well, for all of you Matchroom fans, Wilder beating Fury by knockout. Just saying. Just saying, guys.
I want smoke.
Josh? Haas? Huh. Sorry, I mispronounced that. 11 with the super chat saying, who wins Fury versus Wilder rematch? I'm picking Wilder, to be honest. I thought he had more success in the later half of the fight. And my rule of thumb is that in a close first fight, Yogi, I don't know what BYSIS is. What is that? BYSIS. I don't know what that is. Please explain that. Wilder was able to land his shots more effectively in the second half of the fight, and because of that, I think he's going to find more success early in the rematch, is what I'm thinking. Though it's a tough fight. Plus, I mean, Wilder's been fighting far better competition this year. Fury's been fighting subpar competition, not even top 50 competition, and struggling. So, momentum is a huge thing, and Wilder has the momentum right now, not Tyson Fury. But then again, we know that it's Deontay Wilder, so you can outbox him pretty easily, if we're being honest. Jake Kidder saying, much respect to Rob and Gary. Also, thank you for the time and effort you all put in. I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate all the time you guys put in listening to us. Like, honestly, like, you don't have to listen to our show, and you do. Like, this is something that you guys choose to do, and I'm always amazed that people, like, want to listen to us talk. So, and it's been years now of me doing podcasts. I'm always amazed by it. So, really appreciate it, guys. Rob saying, why were Fury losing upset Matchroom fans? Well, you know, Rob, that Matchroom fans is a synonymous term with UK fans. That's why. Are you trying to say biases? Like bias, Yogi, or basis? I think you're trying to say bias. Go back to your original question then. And Island saying Matchroom fans love UK and will always support Brit over American. I think that's kind of what I was getting at. But I get Rob's joke there. It was a good joke, Rob. Semantical asshole. Let me find the original question there. Yogi. Do you think bias is good for boxing media, for the drama, or is it... I think you meant bias. That's not how it's spelled, which is fine, just to let you know. Or it's bad because how crazy you sound. No, I don't think bias is good. Well, here's the thing, guys. I think people think bias and objective are these black and white things, and it's just not true. First off, everyone has biases. I have biases. Rob has biases. Fu has biases. Gary has biases. Everyone listening to the show has biases. Okay, we have worldviews. We have experiences. We have different things that shape our bias and how we look at sports, how we look at the world, how we look at boxing. Okay, for example, I'm a 5'9", 130-pound guy. That means I am taller and rangier than a lot of people that were in my weight class when I was sparring and training to some degree. Therefore, I kind of like the guys that are on the toes, that are tall, rangy in boxing, because I am that guy. I have a bias towards those fighters. I have an innate bias towards those guys that I recognize. So everyone has biases. Every media member, everybody. No one is a pure objective person. That doesn't exist. That's a myth that I think people that pay attention to news thinks exists but doesn't. The way to be an objective journalist or reporter or pundit or whatever we are is to disclose our biases, be aware of our biases, and adjust to those biases. If we do those three things, then we are objective. Okay? If we disclose our biases to our listeners, our readers, whoever it may be, in whatever platform and medium we are, if we are aware of our biases, obviously, and obviously, finally, if we adjust our opinions and our takes and our commentary because of our biases, because we're aware of them, and we try to adjust because of that, then you are an objective media member. That is the distinction to make. An easy way to look this up is to just type, to Google, bias or objectivity in journalism. Google that, read some actual the Journalistic Institute, was in the U.S. or whatever that is. Read up on these official institutions and their determinations of what is objective reporting and what is bias reporting, and the distinctions between these two. Like 135, guys. 130 is maybe exaggerating. No, I've dipped sometimes to like 126 and 127. To be honest, guys, it's weird. My weight fluctuates. But digressing. I mean, like in talking boxing or just boxing or talking truck boxing news, I understand that. But what I'm saying is that it's not. The question isn't, is bias bad or good in boxing? Bias exists. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is a reporter not disclosing his biases. That's a major issue in boxing. Not disclosing who's paid for their hotel rooms. That is a major issue in boxing. People having biases is not an issue. Okay? Because there's ways to circumvent those biases and still be an objective reporter. We do it on this show. How many times do we disclose, hey, we're stands and we love these guys and we're fanboys of these fighters? We try to disclose our biases often when we're giving our opinions and our commentary on news and rumors, because it is highly important that you, the listener, is aware of where we are coming from as a reporter. So that's the distinction I want to make. It's not a black and white question. Bias is innate. It's going to be there no matter what in media. Does boxing media do a good enough job to circumvent that bias, to account for that bias? No, not at all. And that is an issue. And that's a distinction I think that is valid to make and important to make as well. What else do we have here? Dennis in the house. What's up, Dennis? How you doing? Robbie Hearns has no biases. Oh God, you guys are great. Let's see. What else do we have here? I think that's gonna be it for today, guys. Don't worry. If Rob's available, tonight today we're gonna be doing a regular show at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Break down all the fights this coming weekend. Break down all the news, all this stuff. Thank you guys for joining me on this Q&A. It's been fun. I had a fun time. And we should be, like I said, back either today with Rob and Gary or tomorrow with Rob and Gary. Depends on Rob. So don't at me anymore. At Rob. Please. Please. But anyways, guys, have a good day, good night, good evening, wherever you are. If we don't see you again later today, and find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, on all social media platforms. Peace.
Just send me location.
You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
I am Phil. I'm very Phil.
You disrespect boxing, you piece of shit?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
It's bullshit.
I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
Where is this Burger King?
Hey, pussy, are you still there?